Hi guys, episode 7 now of this season of Mamemeister's High Score Kerfuffle, and last week's game was Section Z, released by Capcom in 1985. This game starts off as a fairly standard side-scrolling shmup, but it does feature a few interesting aspects, such as the ability to turn left or right, but also the vertical scrolling sections, which is a nice twist. Overall though, I didn't find this game very enjoyable. Last week I mentioned that it's nothing to write home about visually, but the gameplay, despite featuring some interesting innovations, I also find a little lackluster. The music is dull, none of the enemies are very interesting, and the bosses are some of the worst that I've seen. They look shit and die super easily. The first one looks like something out of Super Fantasy Zone and doesn't really have a place here. The second is Weedle from Pokemon, and the third looks like a flying washing machine. I've seen this game described as a bit of a hidden gem. I prefer it to remain hidden, and a gem it certainly isn't in my eyes. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and Paulie Moz certainly enjoyed it, with a few others seeming to enjoy it too. Regarding home versions, this game saw a port to the Nintendo Famicom and NES. Interestingly, the manual for this game reveals that the character you play as to be Captain Commando, a fictional spokesman for Capcom that eventually saw his own game appear in 1991 in the arcades, and received a number of home versions. With this week done, let's take a look at the scores. We had 15 submissions this week, which is decent, and we had a new submission from Leagsy over on the Discord. Always like having new players. Competition was pretty fierce, and we had a big group of people between 50 and 100,000 points. 4th to 6th was pretty close too, with Weebob, Paul and Mark all finishing fairly close to one another, but our top 3 really separated themselves from the pack, each leading at different stages and showing they were always going to finish ahead of everyone else. Big Juffer has had his best performance of the season and ended up in 2nd, just squeezing out 10 shearers in 3rd. Big Juffer is a big shmup fan, and you can find lots of vids on his YouTube, including his run here. Out in front though is our usual fixture. Another incredible performance, and the only person to loot the game with a huge 300,000 points is Andrew. Another well done to Andrew, with his 4th win of the season. Is this week going to be the one that he finally gets a game choice? Here's the distribution of the scores once again. Last week we saw Andrew and 10 shearers way out in front, with a hugely different score to everyone else. This week, we've probably got the closest to a normal distribution that we've seen, which is nice. We've got a little gap in the middle, but with such a small sample size, this is probably as close as we're going to get. This week, although Andrew has finished a chunk ahead of everyone else, it's probably not as dominant a performance compared to some that we've seen. Let's now take a look at the changes to the leaderboard. We've not had too many changes in the overall ranking. Robert Morrison has separated himself from Milthy, having been tied on points previously. The only actual movement position has been for Big Juffer with his great performance this week. He's moved ahead of me, is now 13 points clear, and only 13 points behind Bob. I'm hoping we get something up my street this week so I can close the gap. At the top of the table, with Andrew taking another win and Big Juffer squeezing out 10 shearers, Andrew has now got a 20-point lead at the top, which is beginning to look a little unassailable. Let's see what we get this week and if it can mix things up. Given the lead Andrew has now, I'm hoping we don't get one of his games. But after all of these great performances, he probably deserves it. I've got everything loaded into the spreadsheet once again, so let's set the selector going. Okay, there we go. Hit it again. What are we going to get? Okay, so Andrew has been lucky, and we've got Joust. Again, classic game that I've heard of, don't know much about it. I'll go take a look, generate a video, and be back in a minute. So finally, Andrew has a game choice, after getting his submissions boosted for the 5th time, and this is the 2nd time we've had a boosted game selected. This week's game is Joust, released by Williams Electronics in 1982. Despite never playing Joust, it is a game I've heard of, and the main logo is pretty iconic. Having a quick play, it wasn't immediately obvious what I was supposed to do. You play as a knight riding an ostrich, and you need to defeat the enemies by colliding with them, and keeping your lance higher than theirs. If it's lower, they will knock you out. When you defeat an enemy, they drop an egg, which you need to collect, or it can hatch another knight, which when picked up by an ostrich, regenerates the enemy. The controls are very simple, with left and right on a joystick, and a button to flap the ostrich's wings. Rapid tapping causes the ostrich to ascend. Something instantly noticeable with this game is the physics. Your character is very floaty, and has an amount of inertia, so this will definitely take some adjusting to. I enjoyed the first play that I had, but I can imagine this becoming a frustrating one as you progress. It looks like there are a couple of ROMs. I'll ask folks on the Discord to finalise the ROM and if we should adjust the settings. I'll put the decision in the description below. So I hope you enjoy playing some Joust, and I'll be back next week to tell you that Andrew has won again. See you then.